Welcome to Beyond the Plate, Industry Talks by Le Cordon Bleu. In this podcast, we get some real insight into the food and hospitality industry from a variety of renowned chefs, industry experts, and Le Cordon Bleu alumni. Join us as we hear the fascinating stories and unique experiences behind some of the best-known names in the industry.
In today's session, we have a culinary legend. Hence, we decided rather than keeping him all to ourselves, we'll share his wisdom with you all in an open platform. Chef Michel Roux Jr. belongs to the great Roux dynasty, who have probably influenced the British understanding of French food more than anyone in the past century, transforming the British culinary scene to what we see today. Chef Michel Roux Jr. is currently the chef patron of 2 Michelin-starred Le Gavroche in London, and oversees both the Roux at the Parliament Square and Roux at the Landau. Chef Roux is also an author, broadcaster, and a food consultant. I'm hoping that today, in today's conversation with the chef, we would get more in-depth insight about his restaurants, his training in the formative years, his career as a chef, author, and broadcaster, about the legendary Roux Scholarship Program, and also his advice to aspiring chefs in these present times. Without further ado, it is a great honor to welcome Chef Michel Roux Jr. in this chat room. Chef, welcome.
Hey, hello everybody, and hi Nitin. It's great
having you here.
Yeah, it's great to be here, and really cool to be on this platform.
Great. Could you tell us a bit more about the Roux dynasty and Le Gavroche, please?
Where do I start? I mean, there's so much. Oh gosh, I mean, we've been open since 1967, so I think an iconic destination now, a true destination restaurant, and people come from all over the world to come and dine at Le Gavroche.
It is. It's kind of simply astounding the way how the Roux dynasty has put a place in the British culinary scene. If you can just talk about the restaurants, the Roux Landau, the Parliament Square, a bit more of the offerings, what you do, and there is quite a lot of first in Le Gavroche. The first to get the Michelin star, to retain the second, and then the third. It's lots of history steeped in.
There's a heck of a lot of history, and people often ask, well, what's the secret? Why is Gavroche still open after all these years? And I think, it's because we're true to our roots. So it's very French, and we respect the traditions. We are classical in our approach, and also in our food, our service, but we embrace the future. So, we never stagnate. We're always sort of, a lovely picture of my old man there as well. So yeah. We're always looking to the future and to be innovative, but respecting gastronomy and respecting the French origins. So, I think that's very important, and that sort of creates real sense of being. So people know exactly what they're going to get when they come to Le Gavroche. They're going to be cosseted, and they're going to expect quite a bit of butter and cream in a lot of dishes. Although not all the dishes are rich and heavy, but there's a great sort of line going through it that what it is. It's reassuring as well, very reassuring. So I think that's Gavroche in a nutshell. But it would be wrong to roll out Le Gavroche, to have a Le Gavroche in Dubai, in New York, for me, it would be totally wrong. And it would be just, I think, diluting the wonderful name and brand that Le Gavroche has. So, I've had lots of offers to do it, but I've always refused. So I think opening other restaurants, they have to be different. You have to be able to recognize the Roux trait and the Roux sort of pillars of quality, but different. So Roux at Parliament Square is very different, but as soon as you sit down and start to eat, you recognize that there's a Roux ethos there. and Roux trained staff. And then likewise, with Roux at the Landau, and we're actually, this is hot off the press, but not even gone to the press yet. Wow. We're working on a new concept at the Landau as well. Something really, really very close to my heart, and something that I think is going to be amazing. It's really, really amazing. So, it's looking forward and not sitting on your laurels, I think is very important.
That's pretty important. If you can just kind of give us a bit of an understanding of the relationship with you have with Langham, the Langham Hotel. That's a kind of a food and beverage. You have taken over the food and beverage services there and probably created the concepts. And how does the relationship work, especially working with a Asian hospitality business, which is quite extreme and very involved in the luxury hospitality sector?
Yeah. Well, it's absolutely amazing to work with the with the Langham. It started about 10 years ago, and we just started with the Landau restaurant, and the contract was 5 years, and it worked really well. We have the same goals as the Langham, and that's perfection, and we never cease to keep going for perfection. And every day we question ourselves and we say, how can we be better tomorrow? And you're always thinking about that. So we push each other. But the Langham for me is just one of those hotels that epitomizes 5-star luxury. It really is
quite iconic. Quite iconic.
Yeah, absolutely. And I trained in Hong Kong, so I love Asia, and I love China and love Hong Kong, Singapore, all of that. And so when the opportunity arose, I just jumped to it. I said, yeah, this is for me. This is 100%. And like I said, after 5 years running the Landau, we tweaked it again. We changed slightly the concept, and we were offered to take over or to put my name on the banqueting, the in-room dining, and the bar snacks at the Artesian, the Palm Court, afternoon tea, and so on and so forth. And then the latest project was the Wigmore Pub, which was part of the hotel, which was never used. It was just empty, useless. So let's make this pub, but make it with the true values of a pub. So an amazing Scotch egg, a fantastic pie, all done in-house, great service. But take it away from the hotel. So the guys haven't got the Langham name badge, and they've got different uniforms, and so it's all it looks like a pub, a very good pub, I must say.
Yeah, it's a kind of a very polarized offering from the traditional French fine dining operations of yours, and it was quite inspiring to see such a concept being put in a luxury hospitality organization, and that too very near to Oxford Street. But how different is the food offering in terms of how did you manage to kind of incorporate that very exclusive cooking style into that pub concept?
Yeah, well, I mean, for instance, if you take the pie. The pies are all made by hand, and nothing is shop bought. Everything is made in-house. Amazing quality ingredients, and that's key as well. Highly skilled staff, highly motivated, and pie. It's just so heartwarming, isn't it? It's a great dish. The Scotch eggs, the toasty, cheese on bread.
It's amazing.
Nothing more. So you probably had about half a dozen yourself.
Yeah, I was there at the opening.
Yeah. I mean, they are. It's truly amazing. So, whether it's sort of based on British cuisine, which the pub food is, it's great classic technique in its making, and so the two come together there.
Great. Now you have several relationships with different companies, and now you have a consulting arm, which is Chef Roux, and also you work with Compass Group, which is one of the most established and very well-renowned contract catering in the world, and then the premium operators of that, which is Restaurant Associates. Could you please kind of give us a bit of an insight on the relationship and how and what kind of operations do you do with them?
Yeah, wow. Well, I mean. Then that relationship goes back to, gosh, my word, I would say Okay, so in the 70s, my father and uncle opened up an outside catering business based in the city. So we were based in a big brasserie that we had at the time. And the kitchen was huge and empty on the weekends as well, because the city of London in the weekend was dead in those days. In fact, it was dead in the evening as well. Totally different to now. So to use the kitchen, my father and uncle said, well, let's do an outside catering business and then we can use this space. And it grew and grew and grew. And we were taking on a lot of events in the 70s and early 80s. And then we managed to get a contract, one of the first contracts in a merchant bank. So we actually put a chef in there, trained a chef, put him in there, and he would run the food business and the food there, the catering. It was very small, very small. But that one contract then grew to a second and a third. And then it got quite big. Compass got very interested in this. And so it was at a time when, in the early 80s, when my father and uncle had decided to break up the company. And the two flagships, the Waterside Inn and Le Gavroche, to be separated as companies, and the rest of the company was going to be sold off. Most importantly, the outside catering business was swallowed up by Compass. And they created Roux Fine Dining. So a lot of contracts in the city, and still exist now. So, we've been going on so long, have got Roux trained chefs in their kitchens and providing some absolutely amazing food for the workers there. So, and so of course my father and myself still consult for Compass, look after these contracts. We do a lot of work with their staff, with their chefs, do a lot of training, and so that's part of it. And then also for Compass, we do a lot of work for their events part of the business. So we run a restaurant at Wimbledon Championships, for example, sadly cancelled, like everything else has been cancelled, where we do 1,000 meals a day. Also with the Jockey Club and more recently Tottenham Football Club, where we were providing food there as well for the hospitality area. Sorry, apologies. So it's been a very close-knit relationship with Compass. Very fruitful. In fact, I wouldn't even call it a consultancy. It's more of a partnership. It really is. We work together and we have the utmost respect for each other, because yet again, you see, we are working for the same goals, and that is so important, because at the end of the day, if you take on something and put your name on it, you want to be proud of that, and you can't just put your name on something and then walk away and count the money, because that's never going to work. You've got to have values, and you've got to trust, and you've got to work for it and believe in it, and that's so important.
Very important. Thank you for that, giving that understanding of the relationship you have, the more of a partnership rather.
Yeah.
You mentioned about your time in Hong Kong, the training you had in Asia, and could you just please talk us through your journey, how the formative years of how you came into this industry? You're working in Le Gavroche, Waterside, quite a few things are in public portal, but if you can just probably put a bit of insight from your own end, please.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was almost born in a kitchen, and that's truth. My mother went into labour whilst she was helping my father cook professionally, and I very nearly popped out in the kitchen. But I was, from day one of my life, no, it's true. From day one of my life, I was in a professional kitchen, because didn't have any nannies or anything like that, and mum had to help dad in the kitchen. So there I was, and in a corner, in a cradle, and that's it. And up until the age of 6, 7, that was the case. My father was working in a private house as a chef, and so I spent a lot of time as a child, as a baby, in a kitchen. So for me, I can't think of anything else I would want to be or want to do other than working in this wonderful industry. And
then you spent some time in Paris?
Yeah, so I mean, professionally, I left school at 16 and went straight into an apprenticeship in Paris as a pastry chef.
Yeah.
And that was a wonderful experience. 2 years learning great classic desserts like the millefeuille and crème pâtissière, and ice creams and puff pastry and all of that, all the great French classics. Yeah, so that was good.
Great. I'm getting some questions coming on board in the portal. So one of the participants, Sophie, I'd like to thank the chef for being an inspiration in life. So that's a comment.
Thank you.
To be one gentleman, Paul, is asking, how much emphasis do you place on Michelin Guide and world's 50 best, and equally the chef at the helm versus the team involved? So it's a bit of a yeah, that's a big talk, but if you can just probably compress a bit.
Yeah, that's a fantastic. We could do an hour show on that.
Of course.
That is a great question, because in my honest view, I think they're all worthy and they're all all great. But as a punter, then I think you have to get your information from all of these sources, and then you make your decision. I don't think any of them are 100% infallible. There's always going to be the odd one that you don't agree with, and that's human nature. At the end of the day, it's human nature. But the one that I think that is most respected within the industry is still the Michelin, the Red Guide. It's stood the test of time, and it's still, I think, relevant. But in nowadays, people are getting their information from all over. So it might be somebody, a blogger, or it might be a food writer on the national press, or they might pick up something on social media, as well as the Michelin Guide, the Good Food Guide, Harden's, you name it. There are so many out there. So I think it's up to the individual to look at it and pick and choose.
Great. I'm going back to Le Gavroche here. Le Gavroche is quite famous for its classical French cuisine. Now, would you be able to elaborate on the food offerings there? And there is quite a few questions tagged on, which is coming along. So I thought I'll just ask that before we go into that.
So the food style, I touched upon it earlier. It's classic, it's French, yes. But not necessarily heavy. But if you want something indulgent, like the cheese souffle, there's probably God knows how many calories in that little bowl of cream and egg and cheese. There's a lot. I've never actually counted how many, but there's a lot. But if you want that, it's there. If you want, a nice, beautiful reduction sauce, it's there as well. However, if you want something lighter, there's always a grilled fish on the menu. There's always some form of a salad. There's always, lighter options. But still, nonetheless, when I say lighter options, there's still the skill involved, and the passion. It's the same passion and the same wonderful ingredients that go into it.
Great. Now there is quite a few questions about the COVID situation. I will probably touch base on that a bit later. But one of the participants here, Giorgio, is really an honor to meet you in this platform. When you're creating a dish, you said you were searching for perfection. So how do you know when the dish you're creating is perfect? And could you define what's perfection for you?
That is so difficult. It's so difficult because, every day I come back home from work and I think I can do better tomorrow. And, I'm always putting it in question. There are certain dishes that you think, yeah, okay, like the cheese souffle, for example, the souffle suisse. I don't think you can better it. Maybe you can put a bit of truffle on top. That will make it a little bit better. But, it's very difficult because there are some dishes on the menu on the a la carte at Gavroche that have been there for years and years and years. And I'm sick and tired of them. But you can't really take them off because it's very difficult to make it any better than it is. So I suppose I experiment a little bit, and I'll use maybe the lunch menu as a bit of a launching pad, and try the dish out. And then you listen to comments. I listen to my guests. If guest feedback tell me that, oh well, actually, this sauce maybe is not 100% right with the fish or this sort, I'm not going to turn around and say, I'm the chef, I know better than you. I might think it, but I take it on board. And, I think that's so important, because even me, I learn every day. Every day is a learning day, and you've got to be open-minded to improve yourself. So you take on board, the comments, and you learn from them. So you can hone dishes like that. And of course, creating a dish for me at Le Gavroche it's not just me. The input is from the team, from head chef Rachel, from sous chef Gaetano, or everybody comes in, and we try the dishes, we tweak them, we run them, as I said, on a lunch menu, or maybe on specials, listen to feedback, and until we think it's right to put on the full a la carte.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned about Chef Rachel. She's been a very important constant in your brigade. Would you be able to tell us a bit of the team, the brigade itself, the setup of the team, the front of house, back of house?
Yeah, sure. Because it's very important, because you're only as good as the team that you've got in place, and that's exactly. I think in any walk of life, in any business. So Chef Rachel, as you said, has been with me a long time. She started as an apprentice, and then stayed for a few more years, went away, came back. And when she came back, she said, look, chef, sat down and she said, chef, one day I want to be head chef here. I want to be the first female head chef at Le Gavroche. And she worked her backside off and, reached that position a few years back now. And, she is unbelievable, an unbelievable worker. And I'm extremely lucky to have such a person. But, she's not the only one. We've got an amazing team. Along with Chef Rachel, like Chef Gaetano, he was sous chef for many years, and now he's become head chef. Rachel has become sort of executive chef. Yeah. But Gaetano's there, Amato as well, who's been with us now nearly 4 years. So there's a whole team of chefs that are there that have been with us a while, and that just gradually climbing up the ladder, which is so important, because it's so important to promote from within. Yes. And because so that the people who are only just starting, they can see that actually, if I really want to achieve something here, I can actually climb up that ladder. So that that's very, very important too. And likewise, front of house, because front of house, Emmanuel, which the manager, restaurant manager, has been there a long time too. He started off as a commis waiter, and worked his way up. And Remy, the sommelier, and the sisters have been with us.
He's been there for some time as well.
Yeah, a long time too. And so,
institution in its own right in terms of the wine aspect.
Well, right, absolutely, it is so important. So it's also important. So as guests come maybe for the second, third time, and they immediately recognise these pillars that you have at the front of house, and so it's. You build up a relationship, so that's very important.
Yeah, I've got a question here with regards to Michelin, going back, referring to the Michelin guide. A question from a participant here. Would you say that the countries of Mid and Eastern Europe are underrepresented in the Michelin guides?
The countries from?
Middle, I believe it's Mid and Eastern Europe. So I would say probably you're not talking about the Central Europe, but continent, maybe the Eastern Europe in general. Is that what the question is probably asked about? Is underrepresented in Michelin guides?
Well, I'm not sure whether the Michelin guide goes out into Eastern Europe. I mean, yeah, I think it's still relatively new.
It's got the most of the footprint in Asia right now, especially Japan, and I would say France, UK, Spain, and Belgium and Germany now is probably having its footprint and imprint and much better than probably other places around.
But the Michelin guide is spreading and it is going more and more worldwide. But it's not going to go to a country where there's only maybe 1 or 2 restaurants that are deemed worthy of a Michelin star or a mention. But it is growing, and you see all of the chefs that have travelled to, say, Central Europe or UK, France, Spain, for want of a, and they've learned their skill there. They've gone back home, and they are now, sort of establishing themselves there. So it is wonderful, this kind of freedom of movement of chefs that can go around and learn in different countries, and they come back to their country of origin better for it. And I think it's just wonderful. I mean, I traveled as a young chef. I went to Hong Kong and I came back enriched. It's absolutely fabulous.
Yeah, talking about the travel, another question here. Now, probably mentioned about opening outside than London. There's a person who is joining from Melbourne, Australia. Do you have any plans to expand outside of London? And she is talking from Melbourne, and quite excited to know whether there is any plan to expand. Business.
Listen, I love Australia. I always say if I were to sort of up sticks and emigrate, I would go to Australia. It's beautiful. It's an absolutely stunning country. It has so much to offer. Gosh, Melbourne's nice. It's a great city. Yeah, why not? One day, you never know.
Chef Roux, could you please elaborate on the broadcasting career? You had a stellar career in the broadcasting arena, MasterChef and quite a few to name, but then I'm not going to just point certain shows here, but if you can just give us a bit of a journey into how you started off with this broadcasting and which one did you enjoy, a bit of that.
Yeah. I mean, I never had any training to be, in front of the camera, and for me, it just came naturally. If I'm talking about something that I know, I'm fairly confident, I do get nervous, of course, like anybody else does, I suppose, in front of a crowd or in front of a camera. But then, I think my way of getting around it is just thinking that I'm talking to a single person. I'm talking to my friend, and then you relax. And because, as I said earlier, if you're talking about a subject that you understand or that you know and that you're confident in, then it's fairly simple. I mean, for me it is anyway. For me it is. But the MasterChef, the professionals came around as a bit of an idea between the production company and myself, because I was a guest a few times on the regular MasterChef show. And I said, look, wouldn't it be great to have a professional series where there's only professional chefs?
Yeah.
And they weren't too sure. The BBC weren't too sure either about it, and they thought it would be maybe too niche, and people wouldn't really understand it. So I pushed it, and it came to fruition, which was wonderful. And I did 7 seasons. Really enjoyed my time, and I think we had some fabulous chefs on them.
Yeah. And any particular show which you really enjoyed? I know I can't pick and choose, but then if you can probably.
Well, I enjoyed all of the TV work I've done. I've done because I really enjoy that. I've had so many offers to do TV work that I think, hang on a minute, this is just not for me. This is pantomime, so I pick and choose, and it's got to be something that I think is good. So the MasterChef series was amazing, and Series 2 especially. I say that because the winner he still works for me at Rua Parliament Square.
Oh, okay.
Steve Groves, he's the head chef there. So
he was on the Great British Menu.
Absolutely, yeah. And he won Chef of the Year last year. He's a very, very talented chef. But all the other shows I did as well, the one with Fred Siriax about the front of house, and Kitchen Impossible, and all of them I've thoroughly enjoyed.
Great. Now, there was something in terms of a question coming. You mentioned the presence of social media and bloggers. How much of a justice do you think they can do to understand and give deserved feedback to the classical dishes in a restaurant like yours? Big question, eh?
Nitin, you want to get me started?
Well, yes, we have another half an hour to go around, and I know you have a lot of commitment after, but yeah, it is opening up a big can here.
Yeah. I mean, as I said earlier, I don't mind. I can take criticism, and I take all criticism, and then I will digest it, and I will look at it, open-minded. But it does sometimes grate with me that people think they're experts and will criticize as if they are experts when quite often they haven't got a clue. That kind of gets me. There's one platform especially which is not particularly liked by chefs, and I think it's used by people who go home after having a little bit too much to drink, and they just on the keyboard, and they just it's I don't even go there anymore. I used to originally, and but yeah. So I'm not putting a whole blanket on all platforms like that or all bloggers. There are some very good ones out there, and there's some very good good social media platforms too. But yeah, I think you have to take them with a pinch of salt. And no, I think most people do understand that and can read in between the lines of these things. So
it is, as you said, it can be a full topic of discussion in a different channel.
But you know what, Nitin, most importantly, we're talking about them, and we're talking about chefs, and we're talking about restaurants. So we need, I say we as in the hospitality industry and chefs, we need that because we need to be out there, and we need people to talk about us. So, there's the old adage that there's no such thing as bad publicity. Well, to a certain degree. So if people are talking about you, and that's just raising interest, and so people will automatically remember you, remember your name, and then maybe eventually come to your restaurant or whatever. So, I think it's disingenuous for chefs sometimes to say, oh, the bloody press or this or that, because sometimes these chefs are the first ones to be knocking on the door of the press to try and, or sending a press release to get some coverage. So, it's a two-way street.
Great. Now, you're a broadcaster, you're a consultant, you're also an author. And you have published quite a few books, and your latest publication, The French Revolution. Elaborate on us, please. That it's only 6 months right now that you have opened or published this. A bit of content, if we can just share it to the world.
Yeah. So the concept behind the French Revolution is really to sort of showcase French dishes and to prove to the people that it's not that rich, difficult, indulgent, expensive, and all the other names that you can think of that most people think of as French food. It is actually, at its very essence and its very heart, very similar to Italian food. So ingredient-led, simple food. The provinces, every area of France have different specialities and different ways of cooking as well. So it was busting those myths, so that the food, the recipes in there, most of them have no more than 5 or 6 ingredients, all very easy to source as well. Most of them as well, I've purposefully cut back a bit on the sugar and the fat. So, it just makes it so much more approachable.
Great. Now I have a question coming up, which is probably interesting here. Dominic Hume, I'm a chef trained. Okay, he's a trained chef in various restaurants in UK and Asia, working on blending Western cuisine techniques with Asian flavors, particularly Indonesian cuisine. Would Le Gavroche consider incorporating Asian flavors into the menu?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like I said, I trained in Hong Kong, so I was very much inspired with in the ingredients and new methods and new ways for me to cook. So yeah, in fact, I think on my return to Hong Kong, I put one particular dish on the menu. That was scallops in a Chinese 5-spice reduction, red wine, and slightly sweetened sauce. It worked beautifully with the scallops, and that was on the menu for quite a few years. So yeah, I think so. But you've got to be very careful where you go with that, because fusion food is wonderful, but it could be it can lead into confusion. So very careful. Subtle hints, I think, is wonderful. and can work, definitely. I mean, I go back to when I was working at the Great Alain Chapelle in Lyon, who had 3 Michelin stars, and this was going back into the early 80s when I was there. He was using fresh ginger, he was using soy sauce, and coriander, which in France in the 80s was like, whoa, what's this? You know, but he had traveled to Japan and to Hong Kong. One of the first French chefs to actually go out there and travel and do big promotions in hotels, and came back with these wonderful ingredients and said, I want to incorporate this into my food. Now, you know, he was using this in a way which was revolutionary, especially in Lyon. I mean, the Lyonnese food is very, very classical and quite indulgent and rich. And, you know, so to actually find some ginger in one of his dishes and using soy sauce in one of the seasonings was, quite something.
Yeah, especially in the 80s, as you said.
Yeah. But it can work. I think you just got to be very careful.
But we have also seen a lot of cuisine offerings coming around where there's a lot of impact of fusion coming around, and some are successful, some lose their character off the road. But I think the offerings are in plenty, and so many diversions and diversification has happened in the food and beverage world. Now, this is probably an interesting question, something very, you might just find it very interesting. What do you do every day to keep your motivation? And what do you do when you lose it?
I don't lose motivation. No, I've never lost it yet. The day I lose motivation will be the day I stay in bed. You know, I don't. Yeah, give it all up. No, I love working. I tell you, I mean, these last 2 months have been really hard because I love going to the kitchen and I love seeing all the young chefs, and I love, you know, sort of being with them, in amongst them. I don't cook. I don't roll my sleeves up and actually do a lot of cooking at the Gavroche, but I'm there and I can hear them, I can smell it, I can taste, I can, you know, so I'm part of the team. But yeah, that's my motivation. You know, seeing the next generation working and encouraging them, inspiring them, giving them a bit of advice, and you know, all of that. That's the motivation.
That inspiration thing, I will come to that a bit later because we need to talk about, you know, we have quite a lot of aspiring chefs in this platform. But going back to the broadcasting, there's a question coming from Kavita. Over the years of association with broadcasting, you must have come across quite a lot of chefs, many chefs. Anyone in particular who has inspired you?
Well, I name checked Stephen Groves, most definitely. I mean, that was series 2 of MasterChef Professionals, and he straight away, I mean, he was a very young chef there, but yeah, I immediately saw something in that guy, and he was a very worthy winner. And as soon as he got to the final, I said, look, Steve, give me a call one day when you're ready, and I'd love to have you work with me. And he's exceptional talent, but there were many that I saw during the series, and it is wonderful. It's really fantastic. And you know, sometimes they weren't from well-known restaurants. They may have been just cooking in a pub or cooking in a local, you know, restaurant, whatever. But you can see the talent is there, the natural talent and flair, which is great.
Great. This leads to the next question about inspiration, different people you met, the Roux Scholarship, the coveted Roux Scholarship. Chef, could you please go through how it evolved, the inception, the idea behind it, the present structure, and how the format is right now, and also talk about the n number of alumni of the scholarship. I know it's a lot to talk, but if you can, you know, give us a bit of a.
It started 35 years ago, and obviously by my uncle and my father. And the idea behind it was to offer an opportunity to the winner to be able to work anywhere they wanted. In those days, it was literally France and Italy and Spain, in a 3 Michelin star restaurant for 3 months, all expenses paid. Which means that it's an opportunity of a lifetime of a young chef to be able to get that experience, because especially back then in the 80s, it was impossible for an English or British chef to work abroad. It was just unheard of. You know, if you sent your CV in, and a French 3 Michelin-star chef would look at it and go, why would I want to get an English? They can't cook. You know, they eat jam with their lamb and mint sauce and all of that. So you know, the preconceived idea that an English chef could work in it was just no. But if they got a personal letter from my father and uncle, then yes, they would take them on. So it was, you know, that was the concept, that was the idea. And of course, the idea as well was to encourage and to inspire young chefs to better themselves. So, you know, that was the idea of the competition. So our first winner was Andrew Fairley, who sadly passed away a couple of years ago. But he was an exceptional Roux scholar. And you know, he came. We brought him into the judging panel as well a few years ago, and you know, he was not just a scholar. I mean, he was a friend. He was a family friend, which is, in fact, you know, I think the Roux scholarship is more than a competition. And all the winners, in fact, even some that never actually get to win it, but have been to the final several times, become part of a family, become part of, you know, such a very close-knit group of chefs that it is incredible. So, you know, the prize of the sponsors, and it's so important as well that we have these great sponsors, so that, you know, the sponsors bring prizes and some money to run the competition. And then we've still got this wonderful prize at the end of a stage, a work experience in a 3 Michelin-star restaurant of their choice. And this is worldwide now. Quite a few have chosen to go to the States now. But I think the most important element of this competition is that you become part of this Roux family. And that is, you know, that's treasured. Because once you are there, you can pick up the phone and speak to Sat Baines or you know, Ken, Kalain. I'm trying to reel them all off now. It's very difficult.
Got 35 of them.
Yeah, there's 35 of them. Harry Guy, so on and so forth. Anyway, all of our winners, and they all call each other up if they've got an issue or they're you know, they're not sure about something. They'll text me, or they'll do the same with Alain, or you know, one of the ex-winners, and we all help each other. You know, and I think that's, you know, that's so important, so important.
Great. And if you can probably name, you know, we know about Andrew Fairley. Is there any other chefs who has gone into permanence right now in entrepreneurial journey? Now there is many chefs in the industry who has graced the kitchens of Le Gavroche and the Roux dynasty. I can name probably Gordon Ramsay, for example, and Marco Pierre White, Anthony Worrell Thompson. You know, there's many chefs who has probably imprinted that culinary scene in the British soil. So these people, are they continuing the legacy what you have created, and how close-knit are you with the rest of the wider family?
Yeah, I think it's very important. You know, and that is part of the legacy as well, isn't it? I mean, you know, my father and uncle started it, and you know, I hope I'm continuing that, and my cousin as well, Anna, and likewise my daughter will too. You know, and I think it's the Roux ethos to inspire and to try and encourage more people to come into our industry and to help them succeed. And you know, no matter who you are or whatever walk of life you are from, you know, you've got an equal opportunity to get to the top and achieve your dreams.
Great. Now, that's Roux scholarship. It's an important element of this conversation. Now, we have amongst us quite a few aspiring chefs and students. Chef, when we met previous year to create a partnership between our institutions, Le Cordon Bleu, London, and Le Gavroche, you're more than welcoming about the idea to give access to our students to gain experience in your establishment. And I was simply amazed at your active presence in the running of the restaurant and for taking the time to show me around the facilities. Not only did our students excel under your guidance over the last year, you also gave them a platform to show their skills. Mentioned here one of our students, in turn, Jia Chen, who created a dessert which was eventually put in the menu, which is highly unusual. It's quite a rare chance for an intern to put a imprint on the menu.
Yeah.
Training and development. If we can just talk about how you inspire the students, what would be the advice you can give to the aspiring chefs, especially during the current times? I know there's a lot of things involved in it, but if you can just start with the relationship, the access to your kitchens, and the lovely photo of what you're seeing from Jia Chen, who probably made a cheesecake.
Yeah, that was gorgeous. It made me laugh, the previous photo, because I just had a haircut and a beard trim, which is not the case now because it's going all over the place. But I think it's again going back to the Roux Scholarship and sort of that ethos. It's inspiring and giving people the opportunity to showcase their skills and this was perfect. We tasted this dish a couple of times and we were very happy with it, and so we said, okay, let's put this on the lunch menu. And so I think that's a memory for Jai Chin, isn't it? I always get it wrong, the pronunciation wrong. That's a memory for her that will stay forever, because she has achieved something at Le Gavroche that a lot of people will never ever achieve. But I believe absolutely in her, and she felt comfortable enough to be able to propose something to put on the menu, and that's it. And that's what's so important. That's what I was talking about earlier as well, about the menu creation. You've got to work together as a team, and everybody has got something to say.
Yeah.
And then I will sort it all out here and taste it and and think, hang on, this, that, or the other, and then we go for it. But it's definitely team. It's all about everybody is together in this. It's not just all about me. It's about the team.
Great. We've got a question here. Thank you so much, Chef, for sharing experience and wisdom with us. Wanted to ask you, what is your signature dish? And if this is different, your favorite dish or comfort food, whatever it is.
Well, comfort food, I think, it's got to be my mother's shepherd's pie. It's absolutely gorgeous. No one makes it just quite like that. Probably because she puts a lot of cream and butter in the mashed potato on top. Probably too much. But my signature dish, I don't like to say signature dish. I like, I love pastry, obviously, because it was my first professional job as a pastry apprenticeship. So I would say, anything kind of sweet and pastry-like. So maybe a rum baba or something like that.
Okay, now that leads to a question here, because I'll tell you something. I'm inundated with questions, a question galore coming in. but let me put some question which is something related to it. We have a 15-year-old who has joined the conversation, and she has set her heart set on becoming a pastry chef, but don't know if she can make a living on it. Any advices on that?
You can definitely make a living at being a pastry chef. There is a shortage of pastry chefs. So yeah, definitely they are at a premium. So it's I would say go for it. I don't know where this young lady is working in the UK or in the rest of Europe or maybe in Australia, because there are people in Australia. But I know for a fact here in the UK there is a shortage of pastry chefs. So she definitely should get her head down and give it 100%, and you can climb up that ladder very, very quickly.
Great. Another one from Florence Stefan. If you would have to start again, could you recommend a few restaurants where you would like to go, like an apprentice or a commis chef? Very interesting question.
That's a good question. I would like to have traveled more. I was in Hong Kong for 6 months. I would have loved to do more. Maybe Japan. Although saying that, in the 30 odd years ago, it would have been practically impossible to get a job there. I mean, it's pretty difficult now, but not only impossible then. But I would have loved to travel a bit more. And I think, travel is so enriching. And in our industry, in the hospitality industry, you can travel. There are jobs in hospitality all over the world. So, I would have loved to go to, and maybe South America as well, Latin America, places like that.
Huge. There's a lot of culture and a lot of relevance in the world cuisine coming from the Latin American countries now, especially. Great. The question coming, something with regards to the people. What qualities do you look at when you hire someone to work for you, be it an intern or a head chef?
Yeah, I don't often employ head chefs because, as I said earlier, I like to promote. And so, all the head chefs at Le Gavroche have been promoted. And they've not gone out and seeked them. And likewise at Parliament Square and at the Langham. So for that, it's not something that I'm looking for. But for other chefs, then I'm looking for presentation. So how they look. They stand up straight, look at you in the eye. Conversation is important. Mm-hmm. And then obviously, if I'm going to get them to cook something for me, or get them to do a cook-off, then sometimes the simplest of dishes are the most complicated ones. So an omelette is always a good challenge, because there's no hiding place.
The good old challenge of omelette.
And you can judge technique. Mm-hmm. Judge how people are working, if they're working tidily, untidily, seasoning, cooking skills. So it's, even just with an omelette, you can learn a lot.
Great. So something related to a bit of a dynasty here. It's a great honor to listen to you today. This is from Ava. Did your father and uncle have a large influence on your personal style as a chef? And are there any lessons they taught you that stick with you still today?
Well, I think, they've obviously influenced me because they're absolutely fantastic chefs in their own right, and very headstrong and very forceful characters, forces of nature even. But I think the style of my food is of the next generation, and I say that because my daughter's style, for example, is of her generation. So she regards me as a dinosaur, and I regard my father as a dinosaur. So you see how it just carries on. But there is still that love of French food, the love of classic French technique, and whether it's my father's generation or my generation or my daughter's generation, it's still there and still clearly visible.
Yep, great. A question from, I don't know who it is, Chef Roux. After so many years of experience in the industry, what's the most difficult challenges they face new? The new chefs face in this world. I would probably put some reference to the present times of COVID, which we kind of want to talk about a little, if it is something which you can probably elaborate. And how you're dealing with it?
Yeah, I think that's going to be very, very tough in the next few months or year maybe, and for any chefs as well, because whether the furlough system or the retention of staff carries on or not, there are going to be redundancies. I mean, there's just no hiding from it, because we are, as restaurants and hotels, we are not going to be as busy as we were before. Not for 6 months to a year, I think. So that's a tragedy. It's an absolute tragedy. But I think that's difficulty number one. That's the one thing that we have to face at the moment. But things will get better. Most definitely. I'm a very positive person. I think for the future. And I love a challenge. And I think, you have to get that mindset of, this is a challenge. Somebody's put this in front of me, and I'm going to have to work through it. And sometimes, you may get disheartened as a young chef on your way up, or you don't see a way up. It doesn't seem to be working for you. But sometimes you have to just take a step back as a young chef, evaluate the situation, and think, okay, if it's not working here, how long have I been here? Have I been here only a few months? Should I really be staying to at least a year? Maybe things will get better. And then, evaluate, and then go, well, actually, maybe I should be moving on. Maybe there's another opportunity there. You don't want to regret anything in life as well. You've got to look forward, but be positive. There's nothing worse than a negative, grumpy chef. And I always say as well, which is an added thing to this, I always say I can tell by tasting the food if the chef is happy or grumpy. And if you're smiling and happy at your job, your food is going to be full of love and going to be delicious. If you're a miserable, shouty, aggressive chef, your food is going to suffer, and it's never going to be as good.
Yeah, that's right on the point. Okay, I think I need to streamline some of the questions here, but some few questions, maybe one word kind of answers I'm looking for. Is there an age limit on the Roux Scholarship?
Is there an age limit on the Roux Scholarship?
Correct, yeah.
Oh gosh, I'm not 100%. I think it's 30. I think it's 30, but you better check on the website.
Okay, great. I think it's your first food memory.
First food memory would have to be vanilla ice cream, churned by hand, not by an electrical machine, by hand, by my father.
Great. I have a lot of questions with regards to the current situation with COVID-19 and things like this. But any advice for a young chef who's looking to start a career? But I believe you will be, once if the government guidelines are pretty much on line with the way how it is going, you should be opening first week of July.
Yeah, we think so. We think this is the way it's going. So we're kind of aiming now for between the 4th and the 7th of July opening, and we'll see from there. But the guys for the guidelines, the government will probably give us the guidelines the day before they tell us to open, which is usual. Yeah, but what we can do is see what the others are doing at the moment. So what they're doing in Spain, in France, and in Italy, and maybe learn from them. The one thing that they must do is reduce this crazy 2-meter rule, because 2-meter rule, well, it's just not worth me opening the restaurant. I might as well just put the key under the mat and say goodbye. Not worth it.
Yeah, that's been the discussion from different hospitality networks and how they are approaching the government on the same thing. I think we are closing down to the 3 o'clock mark here, and I realize that you have another commitment to take on board. There's a lot of questions. I don't know when we can possibly address those, but I think it's
maybe we can have another couple more. In the time, we've got another couple of minutes. Give me a couple more, Nitin. Come on.
Okay, let me. There's quite a lot with COVID.
Yeah. It is a hot topic. It's very difficult.
What do you rustle up for a quick meal? What do you rustle up for a quick meal? I think probably shepherd's pie, the one which you were talking about.
Oh, no. For me, my idea of fast food is maybe an omelette.
Okay.
And you can put anything you want in an omelette. It's a great vehicle for using leftovers. Or I always have lots of cheese in my fridge. So yeah, some good quality bread and some cheese.
Okay, that's brilliant. The most memorable meal you have had, and why? And best restaurant experience ever. Where, what, and why?
You see, now that's a really cool question, because it's not necessarily the best restaurant, but the best meal, I would say, was on a little island in the Seychelles called Bird Island. And it's a tiny little grain of sand in the middle of the Indian Ocean. It's a beautiful resort that's back to nature. There's no air conditioning in the rooms and all that. It's really, really cool. And we were very fortunate. I was there with my daughter, my wife, and friends, and we dug a hole in the sand on the beach, built a little fire pit with the coconut husks, and grilled some lobsters which we caught. And that was dinner: grilled lobster and a bottle of South African, really, really cold rosé wine, watching the sunset. That was just heaven.
And kind of, we can feel the kind of a picturesque painting of how you do that and how you enjoy the food and wine there. Got a question from Hong Kong. I'd love to know what your favorite Cantonese dishes while you were in Hong Kong.
Oh, I love offal. So the braised pig intestine, absolutely adore that. Also the pig's ears. They do some great dishes with pig's ears and chicken feet. Chicken feet, I love. Oh, jellyfish as well. Jellyfish salad. So but served cold, and jellyfish salad with a little bit of chili, sesame oil. I love it.
Great. I think that's a wrap. Chef, thank you for sparing your valuable time. I'm sure this session would have inspired quite a few, as it's done to me for sure. Thank you, Chef, once again. Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Beyond the Plate, Industry Talks by Le Cordon Bleu. Keep up to date with all our news and episodes by following us on social media or by signing up to our newsletter. Links are included in the episode notes. Until next time, à bientôt!